Welcome to Petty Details, where we skip down a tree-lined lane of conversation on subjects from music to history and everything in between. Join Meg and Monica in our quest for nuggets of knowledge on all kinds of different subjects. Our journey will drop some petty details on you that you didn't know you needed to know until now. All right.
What's
So,
up?
welcome. You ready
Hello.
for this one? This one's going to be fun.
What is today's topic?
Today's topic is mysteries, murder, and mayhem.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah, and I didn't even send you homework on this one, so
Thank you for that because I'm not good at doing homework,
oh, I know.
as evidenced by our last episode. No.
It's fine. It's fine. I don't think you need homework for this one.
Okay.
All right. Excuse me. All right, let's go. So, our first crazy story is a attempted murder. It's more mayhem, I'm going to say. There's
Okay.
no mystery to this one at all. All right, so do you remember Johnny Paycheck? Yes, you do. Don't
Do I?
take your she's all I've got, or take this job and shove it.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, you do.
Okay.
All right, so Johnny Paycheck, outlaw country artist of the 70s and 80s, right? But
Mhm.
he like really embodies this outlaw country persona. Like some of them,
Okay.
they just kind of get stuck in there, but they don't ever do anything.
Right.
No, this dude is outlaw country.
Okay.
Um,
Now I'm
all right.
intrigued.
Yes. So he grows up in Ohio. He
Okay.
was already singing by the age of 9 and singing professionally by the age of 15.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So he apparently is also riding the rails on freight trains at 15. So obviously home life
Huh.
is great, right?
Right. Super awesome.
Yeah. So before he's a singer, he serves in the Navy in the early 50s. He is on an aircraft carrier. Although he was court-martialed and initially sentenced to 18 years for assaulting an officer. Yeah.
Jiminy Curson. Dang.
Yeah. So he, I guess, got into this fight on deck with this officer. Obviously, they know who did it. He escapes twice while under arraignment for this. Yeah. And he finally is lucky enough to have his sentence reduced to 2 years.
From 18 years to 2 years.
Yeah. So
With
super lucky.
2 escapes on.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yep. So at this point, he decides he's going to move to Nashville. He started playing bass for a then unknown George Jones.
Okay.
Okay. So he's in this group. Like he's working with Ray Price, Willie Nelson, Skeets McDonald. He plays bass, plays steel guitar, he sings harmony.
Okay.
He
Talented.
also, yeah, he also wrote a few songs, including a Tammy Wynette song in 1966.
Dang.
Yeah, so it's kind of, he's doing things,
Right.
but doesn't have a great history.
I was gonna say not all good things, but he's doing
He's
things.
doing things, yeah. So in 1965, he finally gets this big hit of his own. By this time, he has changed his name to Johnny Paycheck. And
He changed his name to Johnny Paycheck.
yeah, it was
Okay.
not Johnny Paycheck before.
I didn't
So,
realize it was his legally, like he legally changed it. I thought maybe it was just a.
uh, no, I think he legally changed it. I'm not
What?
sure now. I don't know. I don't have that information. You have stumped me, Monica.
What?
I
Coming
know.
in hot with the questions.
So his first hit is this song A11. But again, he gets into trouble in 1965. He has a falling out with his producer and some executive with Pickwick Records. and ends up in LA playing for beer money because this guy cannot keep his shit together.
Clearly.
Clearly. So he's moving around for a while and he is found by a CBS producer while he's in Denver.
Okay.
And then in 1971, he reaches number 2 on the country charts with She's All I Got. Okay.
Mhm.
So he's finally back on top until
Until he's not.
1973. All right.
Until he's not.
Till he's not. So he made it about 2 years before he couldn't handle anything
Life.
again. And he gets
Mm.
charged with forging a check. Yeah. So
Of all things.
keeps going. I told you this dude is outlaw country. Woo!
Yeah.
So in 1981, he is accused of fighting with a stewardess. And then he's accused and charged with sexually assaulting a 12-year-old girl in Wyoming. Bad news. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he denies all these charges. He ends up pleading no contest to a misdemeanor and he received $1,000 fine. That's
What?
it. Yeah, that's it. Disgusting,
Okay.
right? Yeah.
Huh.
Kind of a douche. We don't know if he did it, but he's found guilty of it. So,
Sounds like the potential is there.
yeah. Yeah.
It sounds like it wouldn't be a far stretch.
No. So by 1982, CBS Records has had enough of his bullshit and his legal troubles
Yeah.
and his lack of hits. So, yeah.
And the fact that he's not producing.
Right. So they dropped him. But again, dude cannot keep out of trouble. And in December 85, he ends up shooting a man in a bar.
Okay.
Yeah. So here's the story of this one.
Wow.
Yeah, this guy is a piece of work. So he is visiting his mom in Ohio. She
Okay.
was apparently sick. He's in town for Christmas in his hometown of Greenfield, Ohio. And he decides to go to like the next town over in Hillsboro to this bar.
Okay.
Okay. He gets into a fight with this dude named Larry Wise. Wise? I think it's Wise. Anyway, couple different stories on what actually happened. I'm kind of thinking everybody was drunk, so it's probably somewhere in the middle is the truth.
Yeah.
But Johnny said that this guy Wise and his friend Lloyd Bowers got loud in the bar, approached Johnny. They were talking all kinds of mess. Probably about Johnny being, not a hit maker anymore and, being an
Talking some
all-around not
smack.
great guy, right? And tried to get Johnny to trade hats. Weird, right?
Like literal hats? Like just
Yeah,
straight
like hats. Like they're wearing
them?
cowboy hats or whatever, baseball hats.
Okay.
Yeah.
Completely random, but all right.
Yeah. When this doesn't go well, Johnny claimed that Wise went after him with a beer bottle. Okay.
All right.
Wise said that he and Bowers are drinking, having a friendly chat with Johnny and other people at the bar. They're talking about cooking deer meat and making turtle soup. Weird flex. Like, I don't know why that's in his story, but it is.
Turtle soup. Okay.
Yeah. When Johnny took offense and shouted, "I'm no country hick," and pulled out a gun. Like,
Think
what?
he contradicted himself
Yeah.
just by pulling out that gun.
Yeah. None of these stories really make sense to me. Like I said, I think it's somewhere in the middle,
Yeah.
but
That's what that's just so hard.
so everybody,
I ain't no
everybody,
country hick. Okay.
yeah,
Say so.
everybody agrees on one thing though. Johnny takes out this 22 pistol, aimed for Wise, and the bullet grazed his head, and Johnny took off.
Jeez.
Yeah, so obviously everybody knows who did it.
Yeah.
So he ends up getting sentenced to prison for 7 to 9.5 years. But again, dude is like the luckiest man alive because he only spent about 2 years in prison. And then he gets pardoned by the Ohio governor.
How? Why? Why did the governor pardon him?
I don't know, because he's a fan. I have no idea.
He's a fan of all of his non-hits.
Right, of his 2 hits. Yeah, so that's the
Ridiculous.
crazy mayhem that is Johnny Paycheck.
Wow.
Yeah,
Huh. Who would have thunked
crazy.
it?
Yeah.
Who would have thunk
And I believe George Jones actually paid for his funeral too.
Okay.
Yeah. Because they were like, because he was in that crowd. Like he was in with all those guys.
Yeah.
He just couldn't keep it together.
Pays to be connected.
Yeah. Well, I mean, apparently with the Ohio governor it does, so
Evidently. I mean, okay. Good for
yeah.
him.
All right. So tell me, this one is also, I don't know, kind of a murder mayhem-ish story. What do you know
Okay.
about Jay-Z? What do you know about his past?
Jay-Z, nothing.
Right.
Really.
He's a
Like,
right. He's a producer. He made some hits that people know. Married to Beyonce, has his
yeah.
own
Well,
color. Yeah.
I'm like, I know about his present.
Right. I know he's a billionaire.
He's worth a shit ton of money.
Yeah. Well, Jay-Z was not always the cool and collected guy that he portrays now.
Right.
Yeah. He also wasn't always worth millions. Like this is a real kind of rags to riches story.
Well, and I know he had, I don't know the details, but I know he had a rough start. Like I know he,
Mm-hmm. He did.
again, I
Like,
don't know the details, but I know that much.
well, we're going to give you some of the details now. So he
Right.
grows up in the Brooklyn projects.
Okay.
Okay. He's the youngest of 4 kids,
Okay.
doesn't graduate high school, steady drops out, and he starts selling drugs.
All right.
Okay. So one night, Jay-Z is about 12. His older brother comes into the house high on crack and steals some jewelry, including a ring of Jay's.
Ooh,
Jay-Z ends up getting pretty angry about this and he shoots his brother in the shoulder.
jeez.
Yeah. So his brother doesn't press charges. So there are no consequences to this. Like,
Which I mean,
yeah.
I don't know that I would press charges in that situation either.
No, I probably wouldn't either. But so Jay-Z doesn't talk about this a whole lot, but in 1997, he wrote a song called You Must Love Me. Okay. And it was kind of about that. So fast forward to 99. That's like the only time that he really mentions it is in this song. And it's like just kind of a blurb. Like
Yeah.
it's not a lot. But 99, Jay-Z is out at the Kit Kat Club in New York. And his album, Volume 3, Life and Times of S. Carter, had been leaked a few weeks before it was released. Okay. So Jay had been told by a few people that this guy named Lance Un, that's his nickname,
Okay.
Rivera, who was co-owner of the record label that was home to Junior Mafia, had been the one who leaks this album. Okay.
Okay.
So Jay-Z and Rivera end up at a release party for Q-Tip's album at this club.
Mhm.
And Jay decides he's going to confront Rivera about this. And Rivera got pretty loud about it with him. Okay.
Okay.
So Jay-Z goes back to the bar and he's like stewing over this. He's pissed, right? And he's in shock that Rivera would even talk to him this way. So he decides that he's going to go back over to Rivera. Things get ugly and knives start being pulled out.
Dang.
Yeah. So Rivera ends up surrounded by about 10 people from Jay-Z's group. Okay. And you got to
Mhm.
remember at this point, Jay-Z's stupid mad about this, right? Not
Yeah.
only has Rivera leaked his album, but now he's fucking shit to him in front of everybody, right?
Right.
So Rivera ends up getting stabbed in the shoulder, and Jay-Z gets arrested and charged with second-degree felony assault. He pleads down to third-degree assault, and he receives 3 years probation. Okay.
Okay.
But Rivera comes out later and says that Jay-Z wasn't the one that stabbed him that night, that it's somebody else from this group of 10 that he's surrounded by.
Okay.
So it's even in a Nas song called Ether where Nas says, and your man stabbed Un and made you take the blame. So
Mm.
Jay-Z has never said why he took the blame for the stabbing,
Okay.
but because, snitches get stitches and he didn't want to be a rat.
I
But
was
he
gonna
has
say, yeah.
never commented on it. Not
Even to this
once.
day,
Mm-hmm.
even now, like
He will not
he's
comment on it.
darn near untouchable. Like,
Mm-hmm. But he went
okay.
down for stabbing somebody that he probably did
Right.
not stab.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
But he did shoot his brother in the shoulder, so there's that.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
But no, like, okay.
Crazy, right? I've never heard either of those stories about Jay-Z.
Uh-uh.
Yeah. So he does have some street cred.
All right.
All right.
Makes me appreciate him a little bit more, like his status now, I guess.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he worked for that.
He did. He really did. Yeah. All right. Are you ready for the next one? This one's kind of a crazy
Oh,
story.
oh, bring it
And it's
on.
only one of the crazy stories about this guy.
You gotta love it.
Yeah. Okay. So this is about Keith Moon. Do you know who Keith Moon is?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So he is this drummer for The Who. You know The Who?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm all Keith Moon. Why yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I do. I do know who that is. Never mind.
So he's known for destroying anything and everything from his
Uh-huh.
drums to hotel rooms.
Yes.
He is like the original, I'm going to destroy the hotel room rock star, right?
I think he set the precedent. Yeah.
He did. So there was an estimate done that his destruction of hotel plumbing alone cost $500,000 over the years.
Plumbing,
Plumbing. That's it. That's all that estimate is based on.
because they've had to replace the plumbing so many times over the years,
Oh
or
yeah. So he has this thing for putting explosives in toilets. Yeah, including dynamite.
why am I not surprised? Yeah.
So there's a story of him on the way to the airport. He has his driver return to the hotel because he forgot something, right?
Okay.
Only to grab the TV, throw it out the window into the pool, and he tells the limo driver, I nearly forgot.
I nearly forgot.
I think he's the reason why hotel windows don't open anymore.
He's probably definitely part of it.
Yeah.
Jeez. What? I nearly forgot.
Yeah. And
Pardon me.
who puts dynamite in a toilet? Like, what?
This guy.
Yeah.
This guy does.
Crazy. So,
I nearly forgot.
yep. But he did kill somebody.
What?
Yeah. All right. So,
Just like before his fame with the Who, during, after,
it's
what?
during. It's during.
Okay.
Okay. So, January 1970, Keith,
Mhm.
his wife, a few friends, and his driver slash bodyguard, Neil Boland, go to this pub. Okay.
Okay.
Apparently it was like a opening for one of his friends that owned the pub or something like that. They did not fit in to the normal club clientele
Okay.
at this pub at all. Because this is 70, so Keith Moon is like very kind of hippied out. Only he's not chill hippie, he's like crazy hippie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there is a group of skinheads in this bar, and they took offense to Keith and this group even being there. Okay.
Ah,
Didn't like the way they dressed. They didn't like that he chose brandy over beer.
okay.
Yeah. So
Wow.
they're just like annoyed that he's even there. And I'm sure he was doing Keith Moon antics, which didn't help.
I was gonna say
Like,
he wasn't just lying low though either. I'm sure he
I'm
was
sure
egging them
not.
on and intentionally bugging them at that point, I
I
bet.
don't know that he was intentionally bugging them, but I'm sure that he was not quiet about him being Keith Moon because he just doesn't strike me as that type.
True.
Anyway, so by the time the pub closes, things have gone from taunting to an attack. So Keith and his group run to the Bentley that they showed up in, which doesn't help his status any with these skinheads because they're like, oh, you got a Bentley, right?
Yeah.
The skinheads surround his vehicle and they start like rocking it and throwing things. Okay. So this is a bad situation.
Uh-huh.
So Bolin, the driver slash bodyguard, gets out of the car. He's trying to like get the group off the car so they could leave. He's trying to kind of calm things down, get everybody to disperse. So Keith doesn't normally drive. Like it's not his thing, even when he's sober, which in this instance, he is most definitely not.
Absolutely not.
Right. So he kind of freaks out. He gets in the driver's seat and tries to drive away. Okay. But nobody in the car realizes that they have trapped Bolin under the road or under the car and dragged him down the road.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Bad news. So
Yeah.
poor Bolin, who's trying to just like calm things down and
Do his job, right?
do his job, gets his ass run over.
Oh my gosh.
So Keith is charged with Bolin's death. He's charged with drunk driving, driving without a license, and driving without insurance. But 6 weeks later, the death was ruled an accident, so he's cleared of the death.
Okay.
But he did plead guilty to all of the driving charges because, you know, that's what he did.
Kind of hard to dispute that.
Right. So apparently, this death like haunts Keith
I bet.
like the rest of his life. And he ends
Oh,
up
yeah.
dying in 78, and he was only 32.
Yeah, he lived hard.
He lived hard, yeah. So he dies of a overdose of a drug that he was prescribed to help with his alcohol withdrawal symptoms.
Okay.
Okay, there are pictures of Keith the night before he died, and he doesn't look good. Like he does not look super healthy at all. Super
Yikes.
bloated, like yeah, he just kind of looks like shit. So the night before he dies, he attends a party that Paul McCartney had thrown, and it's to celebrate Buddy Holly's birthday.
Okay.
Buddy Holly is long dead by this time, but apparently
Um,
that's what McCartney wants to do because he had just gotten the rights to all of Holly's songs. Okay.
oh, okay.
So McCartney is showing a film called The Buddy Holly Story at this party.
Mhm.
And Keith apparently didn't even want to go to the party. But his girlfriend like changed his mind. And so Keith is like, fine. And so he ordered up some cocaine. That was the way that it was put.
He just,
So,
he
yeah.
just door dashed it to his
Yeah, pretty much. This is, 1978 DoorDash. So
right.
he um he apparently wasn't drinking much at the party and he only had 2 drinks and everybody was like super proud of him because he wasn't, drinking a whole lot. Didn't they kind of glossed
Didn't
over the fact that
realize
he was
it.
doing everything else. No, they realized it. They just
I
kind
was
of,
gonna say they didn't realize he was stoned out of his mind.
no, they knew. It was just more like, oh, but he's not drinking, so it's okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Uh, so he starts getting like super antsy in the theater, and they end up leaving about an hour into the film, him and his girlfriend. So they get home. His girlfriend said that he took his this is a quote, usual glass of water and a bucket of pills. But that's okay because he's not
Okay.
drinking, right?
Right.
Yeah. So he
Yeah.
ends up falling
Much
asleep
better.
around 4 a.m. He wakes up about 7:30 and he and his girlfriend get into this fight because she didn't want to get up and make him food, but he was hungry.
Okay.
And she ends up cooking him lamb anyway. So,
Lamb?
lamb. Yeah. I was like,
'Cause
lamb
I just always have lamb on hand, don't
at
you?
7:30 in the morning? Yeah.
Yeah. My go-to, my go-to breakfast for sure.
Right? So there's only like what, 3, 4 hours here, but he takes a bunch more pills and he goes back to sleep. So this girlfriend, Annette, ends up sleeping on the couch. She finally wakes up about 4 p.m. and she goes back into the bedroom and she finds him on his stomach with his arm over the side of the bed and not breathing. Yeah. So it's ruled an accident, but he had 26 tablets of the drug in his system. Which I don't think like he killed himself. Like it sounds like this was just his normal, but can you imagine? That is
But did he like was it so he had 26 pills of or 26 tablets of that pill. Did he mistake it for the other pills that he was supposed to be taking? Or like
I don't know. I just can't
is
believe that he would take more after it's been like 4 hours, because I'm sure that you're not supposed to take those after 4 hours.
well, probably not.
Not to mention he had been drinking, like it was maybe only 2 drinks, but still, like I am pretty sure you're not supposed to be drinking on most of that stuff that he was taking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
So weird thing, he dies in the same apartment where Mama Cass of the Mamas and the Papas died 4 years earlier, also at the age of 32.
yeah,
Mhm.
weird.
Yeah. And I think it was owned by Henry Nielsen, the guy who sang All by Myself, the original.
Uh,
Yeah, I think. Don't quote me on
huh.
that, but yeah, he died in that same apartment where Mama Cass died at the same
Oh,
age. Weird,
weird.
right?
Yeah.
All right.
And
So,
he was so young, but like I'm picturing him right now, and he never looked young.
no. And especially in those pictures, if you see him like the last night he was alive, I would
Yeah.
clock him at 47 probably. Like,
Oh yeah. No, well, I mean, he lived rough. Like it was a rough life.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Like I'm like I said, I'm picturing him. He never looked
Oh, he never, some of those people never
32.
looked young anyway, though.
Yeah.
But
Back
yeah.
then, definitely not.
All right. So we can't really do
Well,
murders, mysteries, and mayhem without talking about Sid and Nancy.
bring it on.
Okay. So I know that you said that you didn't really know anything about this story.
I don't think I do,
I think you
but
probably will once I start telling
maybe
you.
I do, and I can't place the name. Maybe I don't
It's
know.
like I would place it as like the Romeo and Juliet of punk music in the late 70s.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So Sid Vicious,
Huh.
bassist of the Sex Pistols.
Okay.
Okay. So he's wild. Like this kid is wild, wild. But he
Uh-huh.
really only had 4 years in bands. like any bands. But he's best known for this incident that happened with his girlfriend, Nancy.
Okay.
Okay. This is like a sad, tragic story. So, Sid co founded a band called Flowers of Romance with a couple people from The Clash.
Okay.
And he also did a stint with Susie and the Banshees playing drums in 1976. And then in 1977, he is put in as the bassist for the Sex Pistols.
Okay.
Let me tell you why. Because it's not that he's a good bassist. I will say that.
Gotcha.
He's not a great musician. Okay.
Right.
He's just got that look, right? That persona.
Mhm.
So what happens is he's like this super fan of the Sex Pistols. He never
Okay.
misses a show. And it was said that he was encouraged to be drunk and disorderly to bump up their punk style, which is a portion of the reason he was picked to replace this guy Matlock as the bassist when Matlock quit.
Okay.
Okay. So he's
Just
picked
help the
because,
image, help drive that punk image.
yeah, he's
Okay.
not great at music or anything like that. It's just that everybody around this whole scene knows that he's wild and that he's like got that
Yeah.
whole punk lifestyle down. So they're like,
I was
oh,
gonna
we're
say
going to
he's already got
capitalize
that.
on this.
Yeah, he's already got that image out
Right.
there. And so everybody's like, oh, it's easy, right? He'll just
Mm-hmm.
continue on
Yeah.
and build our reputation
And I
as a
think,
result.
yeah, and I think that it was very much because the manager replaced him. So I think that it was very much like a money grab. And I think that
Yeah.
they put him in a really bad position that he had no business being in. So
Fair.
honestly,
Okay.
I'm going to put most of this on the base or on the manager because it wasn't it wasn't a place that he should have been. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay, so apparently he's such a bad musician that other people end up playing bass on the Pistols albums.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like
Wow.
it's bad. So, by this time in his life, he's already an alcoholic. He's a drug addict, including heroin.
Mm.
Okay. So it's bad news.
Yeah.
So he meets Nancy, who's a groupie, in 1977. And Nancy had her own problems. She apparently had some mental health struggles, and she's also a heroin user.
Okay.
And her mental health struggles are like documented. And this is the 70s where they don't talk about that kind of thing as much.
Hmm.
So if it's documented in the 70s, you know that it's not
It
not
was, yeah.
yeah, it's not good. And it's not she's not one of those that, she had her period and said that she had hysterics and like they stuck her
Oh,
in an asylum. Like she's really got some issues going on.
yeah.
But they don't ever like there's not really anything out there saying what they were. So we're not
Oh,
really
what
sure
her
like
actual issues are?
yeah, we have no idea like what they actually are.
Gotcha.
And I'm sure that they're not helped with all the drugs that she's doing. So the insanity of these two is pretty well known. They're always together. So they're pretty codependent. And this
Mhm.
causes a bunch of issues within the band.
I could see why.
Um, yeah. So they're already like the Sex Pistols are already kind of like, dude, you can't play bass. Like we're already having to have somebody else play your parts, and this chick is hanging around all the time, and
Right.
you're this heroin user. Like you're not great for this band. Like they knew it.
Yeah.
So this relationship, pretty short-lived, but it's filled with like violence and drug use, screaming matches, and an unhealthy obsession with knives. Like
Okay.
apparently they're buying each other knives like all the time. This is a known thing.
Which by itself is not necessarily a bad thing, but given everything else that's going on in their other
Yeah.
tendencies, yeah.
And this is going to make a little bit more sense later on when I tell you how old they are. Um, but yeah, so you kind of combine this obsession with knives with them being all drugged out and, screaming at each other about dumb shit all the time, and it's not going to be good.
Right.
So, Sex Pistols go on a US tour in 1978.
Okay.
Total disaster.
I bet.
Okay. Band breaks up after the tour.
Oh dang.
It was bad. Like I believe the singer of the Sex Pistols like got on stage and said that it was like the end of the band, kind of bad.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good.
So, um, by October 1978, Sid and Nancy, they're living out of this hotel room. They've got no real money except for the drugs.
Okay.
And they have this party in their room. Okay. Now you got to remember they've only been together about a year
Hmm.
and some change, right?
Yeah.
So they're having this party in the room. Sid apparently took about 30 pills and passed out for most of the night.
Hmm.
Yeah. No idea what he took. All it said was a bunch of pills. He's out cold. Others who were at the party claimed that Nancy was still alive at 5 a.m.
Okay.
But by 10 a.m., she's dead in the bathroom after being stabbed in the stomach.
Okay.
Yeah. And the murder weapon is a hunting knife that Nancy had bought for Sid just a few days before.
Hmm.
Yeah. So Sid is arrested and charged with second-degree murder, and then he gives various accounts of what happened. And I'm betting that this is because he really has no idea what happened because he was so high.
Right. Been passed out for most of the night.
Yeah. So what he should have done is shut his mouth and ask for a lawyer. It's not what he did.
Of course not.
Yeah.
Telling me.
So, right, exactly. So he initially says that they argued that night and that he stabbed her, but he wasn't trying to kill her.
Okay.
Okay.
So admitted to the crime.
Right. Then he said that he didn't remember anything. And then he said that Nancy had fallen on the knife, which doesn't really add up because she's found in the bathroom, kind of wedged between the toilet and the sink, I think. It's either the sink or the
Okay.
wall. Um, so I'm not really sure how she could have fallen on the knife and then wedged herself in this. Like it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like I said, my money is on he has no idea what happened because he was out for the count.
Yeah.
So Sid finally gets smart. He hires F. Lee Bailey as his lawyer,
Okay.
okay, who gets him released on bail. And he starts looking into a possibility that a third party had murdered Nancy,
Okay.
which is totally possible because Sid is passed out
Well, I
on
was
the
gonna
couch.
say, yeah, he's either passed out or incredibly out of it.
Right. So who knows what could have happened in that room?
Yeah.
There are um, rumors that somebody came in and there was some kind of issue with drugs and she got stabbed, whatever. So
Okay.
I'm going to tell you
Definitely.
that this is unsolved, basically.
Yeah.
Like they arrested Sid for it, but honestly, like nobody knows what the hell happened.
Yeah.
So then there, well, I'll get to that in a second. So 4 months after Nancy's murdered, Sid is found dead of a drug overdose while he's out on bail.
Dang.
See the whole Romeo and Juliet thing here?
Yeah.
So there are rumors that it wasn't accidental and that this was Sid's side of a suicide pact that he had with Nancy.
Okay.
And there are actually two people who said that he had left suicide notes saying that he had a death pact with Nancy and that he wanted to be married next to her.
Wow.
I don't know if it was I could see him doing it as a suicide. I don't know if it was. Some people say it wasn't. Um, but there was like this whole thing. I guess one of the letters says something about, well, if something ever happens to one of them, then the other one is gonna, take their own life or whatever. Not that he was gonna kill her and she was gonna die. It's not like that. It's not that kind of suicide
It was
pact.
just, yeah, I was gonna say it was just if something happened, then the other one would commit suicide and
Right.
gotcha. Join
Okay.
him.
So I'm gonna tell you how old these people are, and this is gonna make more sense. They both died before they turned 22.
Dang.
Yeah. So this is like first love kind of
Yeah.
way too obsessed.
Uh-huh.
And then you add on all the drugs and mental health issues that both of them had on top of it. And it's
Yep.
just like this perfect storm of disaster.
Oh, for sure.
But it's so sad, right? Because
Absolutely.
had they both gotten cleaned up, they probably wouldn't have been together and they would have gone on to live productive lives. Because you always have that first kind of real serious relationship where you're like totally obsessed with each other and no, you don't usually have a suicide pact, but
No.
it's devastating when, you guys break up, right?
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, any first relationship is devastating when you break up, but yeah, there's that one
That first one's real hard.
when it's that level, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So all that in his life happened in about 4 years, and all of the crazy, crazy stuff happened in about a year and a half.
Dang.
Yeah.
That,
And that's
that's
what he's known for more than being a bassist.
the sex, yeah, wow.
Mhm.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Mayhem. Absolute mayhem.
All right. So this one is a murder mystery,
Okay.
and it's a real mystery. Okay. So the Rolling
Because he knows how to
Stones. You know who the Rolling Stones are, right?
yes.
Okay.
I think my
So,
dad would disown me if I didn't.
yeah, absolutely. So, Brian Jones is one of the founding members of the Rolling Stones.
Okay.
He's the one who gives the band their name.
Hmm.
Okay. So, Brian, Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, all formed the
Hmm.
Rolling Stones in 62.
Okay.
Keith and Brian are both guitarists.
Okay.
Okay. Brian is super talented at playing guitar.
Yeah.
But he doesn't just play guitar. He plays piano, drums, bass, harmonica, and even the saxophone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So dude's talented. However, he's also kind of a douchebag. So he's not known to be a very nice guy, especially to women.
Okay.
Okay. He ends up having 4 kids with 4 different women by the time he is 22, all of which he is basically abandoned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Living that rock and roll life, man.
Yeah. So kind of a douchebag. He also is known to have been abusive to some of these women,
Okay.
even breaking his hand on Anita Pallenberg's face at one point. So, yeah. So, do you know who Anita Pallenberg is?
No.
Okay. So, she is a big figure in this whole Rolling Stone lore. Okay.
Okay.
She's first with Brian Jones. She ends up with Keith.
Okay.
Okay. Um, she was a model and she was kind of like, um, you know, the song Layla. by I want to call him Eric Cartman. That is not his name. uh, uh, I just lost his name. What is his name? Hold, please. Now I gotta look it up because it's gonna bug me.
I was gonna say that sounds familiar, and I'm sure as soon as you say who it's by, I'll be like, oh yeah, duh.
Yeah.
Um,
Eric Clapton. There we go.
okay. Also,
I mean, I
a
was sort of close.
little bit, a little
Yeah.
close. Yeah,
Anyway, so the
yeah.
song Layla by Eric Clapton is about
Yes.
another model.
Okay.
She was married to George Harrison of the Beatles.
Okay.
So, and then she like left him for Eric Clapton, and there's like all kinds of songs written about her. Well, Anita's kind of the same thing.
Gotcha.
Okay, only in the Rolling Stones. So Keith writes a bunch of songs about her. Brian might have, who knows?
It's
But
possible.
yeah. Okay, so things are not great for Brian Jones.
Hmm.
He's in this pretty successful band, but he's, like I said, kind of a douche. So Jones's problems really start when he begins to clash with the Stones manager, Andrew Oldham.
Okay.
He didn't really like the direction that the band's music was going, or that Mick and Keith were writing more songs together. So he's like super jealous.
He was jealous.
He was jealous. So he feels totally left out. He starts drinking more. And he gets into more drugs, which make him like totally antisocial.
Okay.
So in 1967, his girlfriend, Anita,
Hmm.
leaves him for Keith while Jones is in the hospital. Yeah.
Shady.
Yeah. Probably not the best way to do that, but you know,
I'm
happened.
gonna go with probably not.
Yeah. So, by this time, the band is having some tensions already, and this just makes it worse. And it also makes Jones's addictions worse. Okay.
Yeah. Stress increases. Yeah. You turn to
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
So the band is pretty into drugs, the whole band.
Yeah.
There were raids at their houses, and Jones is arrested for drug possession in May of 1967.
Okay.
Okay, so things are kind of going downhill. So by 1968, Jones is pissing off everybody around him. And Bill Wyman, the drummer, once said that he, quote, pushed every friendship to the limit and way beyond. So they're like trying to be friends with him, but he's not making it easy.
I was gonna say he's pushing everybody, like everybody's
Yeah,
buttons.
he's pushing buttons. So in May of 1968, Brian is arrested yet again for drugs. And somehow, even though he was on probation at the time for the previous offense, he only gets a fine. Yeah. Good lawyers, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know.
Right. But this arrest gets him in trouble with the band because they wanted to tour the US and he can't get a work visa in the US because of the arrest. So he had also by this time stopped coming to rehearsals and recording sessions with any regularity. So he's like showing up when he wants to, he's doing drugs, he's getting arrested, and the band can't count on him. And even when he does show up to these rehearsals and these recording sessions, he can't really play. Probably because he's on so much stuff.
I was gonna say because he's so hopped up on stuff.
Yeah. So his amp would be turned off by the rest of the band because it was that bad.
Gee.
Yeah.
Yikes.
And even when he's trying to play the harmonica, his mouth is bleeding. So this is just like bad.
My gosh.
Yeah, he's in a bad
Bad.
way. So then in 1969, he crashes his motorcycle into a store window and again lands in the hospital.
Okay.
So Mick Jagger has had enough of Brian's bullshit at this point. And he told Jones that he's going to be fired if he didn't show up to this photo session. Okay. And this is the last one that this lineup of the band would have. Okay.
Okay. Last
It,
photo of this line. Okay.
yeah. So in early June, the band had decided it's time to cut ties, fires Brian Jones. Okay. Jones issues a statement saying he doesn't agree with the other band members on the musical direction. And so that's why he quit. So he's like, well, I quit. And they're like, no, you got fired. And
I was gonna say he's putting it out there that, oh no, 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 this was my decision.
yeah. So poor Brian, though, does not last much longer after he was fired. So at this point, he's living at a home that's formerly owned by A.A. Milne, who wrote Winnie the
Okay.
Pooh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Winnie the Pooh connection. Who knew, right?
No. Small. Such a small world.
Right. Okay, so remember he's fired in June.
Yep.
July 3rd, 1969, he is found dead in his pool.
Like floating in his pool.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Okay, so this is where this whole mystery comes in. So Jones has a party at his house that night, which of course includes drugs and drinking, because that's what he does.
Right.
And there are several stories and even a deathbed confession surrounding his death.
Dang.
Yeah. Okay, so here's what we know for sure. Brian Jones ends up at the bottom of his pool, and his death was ruled death by misadventure. Yeah.
Death by misadventure. That makes it sound like he was going out with the hobbits to the Shire and he's like, I'm going on an adventure. I'm going on an adventure.
Yeah.
Death by misadventure. All right.
Mm-hmm. So we know that there are at least 3 people on the property when he died.
Okay.
His girlfriend, Anita Wolin, Frank Thorogood, and Frank's sometimes girlfriend. Yeah, that's how she's listed. Janet Lawson.
Okay. On again, off again.
Yeah.
There's a lot of those.
Probably more of a hookup kind of thing, but
Okay.
yeah.
Booty call.
So all 4 of them are in the pool at some point during the night, and Janet says that she goes to check on Brian in the pool area, saw him not moving. And that's basically where everybody's recollection stops being the same, I'll say.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So here are the theories. One is that there were other people at this house that weren't on any of the police reports and that they left after Brian died.
Okay.
So there are a few anonymous sources that claim that 1 or 2 people were also in the pool with Brian and were horsing around with him and killed him by holding his head under the water, maybe or maybe not on purpose.
How did they not end up on the police report though? Like,
Because it gets crazy. I don't know.
okay.
Some claim that these unknown people were people who were working on the property for Frank Thorogood, who we know was there.
Okay.
Okay. Part of the mystery surrounds this guy, Frank Thorogood. He had been hired to do some construction on the property.
Gotcha.
And apparently, Thorogood and his workers are taking full advantage of being at Mr. Rockstar's house and ended up doing a little bit more partying and mooching than actual work.
Hmm.
Okay. Not far-fetched.
One, as one will.
Right. So this pissed off Brian Jones apparently, and he kicked Thorogood and his crew off the property and told him they weren't getting paid the day before he died.
Hmm.
Although we don't know if this actually happened.
True.
Okay. So Brian's girlfriend Anna claimed later that Brian had wanted to talk to Frank in person about this, which is why Frank was there that night.
Okay.
Okay. She also claimed that then when they were all in the pool, Brian had made some remarks about Frank being older, and Frank didn't like it and started pushing Brian's head under the water, but that he let Brian come back up.
Hmm.
Anna said she also thought that Frank had killed Brian because how he was reacting after the incident.
Okay.
Okay.
How was he reacting though? Like, does it say?
Kind of. There's
Was he
another
just?
story about this. So Janet, the sometimes girlfriend,
Hmm.
also changed her life or her story later in life to say that she left the pool area, and when she was coming back, she sees Frank acting funny. So like kind of nervous and whatever.
Yeah.
But there's
This is her. This is what she changed her story to later in life.
later. Yeah.
He was acting funny. Okay.
Yeah. Um, because honestly, none of their stories make sense. None of them match up, and none of them make
Yeah.
sense if you actually read them. But there's also a story that Frank had a deathbed confession to killing Brian after an argument about money. But
Okay.
again, we don't have any proof that he actually confessed. We've only got this hearsay that was used in a book. So it could have just been a rumor to like sell this book.
Huh. Who wrote the book?
Some other dude, some random dude. Nobody that was actually involved in the incident.
Well, okay. Yeah, I mean, yeah, but like this deathbed confession, who did he supposedly confess to on his deathbed?
I don't know.
Because if he did, obviously he confessed to somebody,
Right.
right? If this confession is real, he confessed to someone. So where's that person?
I don't know.
Like, where did this guy make up this confession? Like you said, to sell the book, like
I don't
that.
know. I kind of think he did.
Yeah.
He just seems kind of, I don't know. It seems kind of shady to me.
Well, I was gonna say, because again, where's the person that he confessed to then? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, why hasn't that person come forward?
I don't know. But like there are stories that one of them went to answer the phone and one of them went to go and get something for Brian, and like there's all kinds of like weird stories about why they weren't near the pool. That nobody knows where
Okay.
anybody else was. Like none of it makes sense.
Yeah.
But if Brian did die accidentally without the help of Frank or any of these unknown people, it could be possible that it was due to the drugs in his system. But again, there's kind of some controversy there.
Yeah.
So his tox screen showed that he had been drinking alcohol. But although the people at the pool say that he was drinking pretty heavily, like he's a pro. So
Right. I was gonna say this isn't his first rodeo. He knows how
right.
to hold his liquor and stuff.
Yeah. So there it doesn't look like there's enough to make a real difference considering how much he usually drank.
Okay.
Okay. And then he had some sort of amphetamine in his system at a high level, but it could have already been worked out of his system by then, by the time that he drank.
Okay.
Okay. So he's also prescribed, and this guy was on like everything, tons of sedatives, including Valium, an allergy pill, and sleeping pills.
Goodness.
Yeah. So it's totally possible that all of this, plus the alcohol, plus swimming, plus possibly getting dunked and all that, just made him sleepy and he drowned accidentally in the pool.
It's entirely possible.
Yeah.
All the drugs and alcohol alone would have just made him,
Yeah.
yeah,
So whatever happened that night, he ended up joining the 27 Club. He died when he was 27
dang.
at Winnie the Pooh's house. Crazy, right? Though, like the whole thing is just crazy.
Yeah. But like, see, stuff like that just makes me wonder, like, I don't know, just how much of the stuff is like made up for to, sell a book
I
or
don't know.
it's just great. Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of it is. I also feel like, from what I've heard, that it's never going to be solved because things like his manager shows up at some point and he's walking around the house. There are a bunch of people that are walking around the house. Like the police just don't really seem to treat it as a crime scene.
I was gonna say, are they like under the impression that it was an accident? He got tired and accidentally drowned, and so they're like, nah, whatever. Or they're treating it like, oh, he OD'd, that kind of thing. You know what I mean?
I kind of feel like they were because remember, it's the 60s
Hmm.
and he's already been in trouble for a bunch of drugs. So he
Right.
is not probably well liked in this, I'm sure, upscale neighborhood.
True.
And
Probably not.
so I'm pretty sure that the cops were just like, whatever, he took a bunch of drugs. I'm not going to deal with this. Good riddance.
Yeah. Kind of wrote it off and was just like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
But bad news. Bad news. And
Yep.
it's hard feeling sorry for the guy because he was such kind of a dick. But
Yeah.
yeah, there you go. So those are my stories of mysteries, mayhem, and murder. I keep switching it around. I can't decide which way I like it better.
Yeah. Huh. I don't know
Yeah.
which way is better either, but there's the mayhem.
Yep. Did you know any of those stories?
No, I did not.
Oh, good.
I did not.
I like to give you some little nuggets of knowledge there.
Bring in the knowledge.
Yeah. Give you some
Very true.
little petty details of stuff that you probably had no idea you needed to know.
But I did need to know them.
You did. Hmm.
And so now I'm like curious because unsolved mysteries like that, especially in Hollywood, the rock and roll world, like all of that, just they make me wonder.
Yeah.
It's like there's got to be somebody that knows something, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like I don't know. It's just weird.
Yep. I think the only one on this list that we can say that we probably actually knows what happened is with Keith Moon. He took a bunch of pills,
Right.
probably
Yeah.
accidentally, because he probably forgot that he took them.
Either that or he meant to take other ones. I don't. Anyway, but
Yeah.
yeah, he took pills. Yeah.
But the rest of them, like, I don't think we're ever going to know what actually happened.
No. And there are a ton of stories like that. Like there are so many other stories out there that are
Yeah.
like that. Um, ow.
Yep. Well, I guess the Johnny Paycheck one, we know what happened with that. He shot a guy because
But
I'm
still,
sure they were egging him on. I'm sure of it.
probably.
Like I feel like he wouldn't get mad about talking about turtle soup. Like it doesn't make sense to me.
How dare you besmirch my turtle soup recipe?
Uh, I mean, I've known some
Oh,
people that have been pretty protective of their recipes, but I've never known them to shoot anybody
I was
over
gonna say
it.
not to that level though. Like
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah. No, one of the well, I mean, this is obviously one of the most well-known probably mysteries, but the Black Dahlia.
Oh yeah.
That
That's another
story
one
is
we're never gonna know. Yeah.
no, but the story is just so it's such a bizarre story. Like somebody's gotta know something, right?
Okay, so that is your mysteries, murder, and mayhem episode. Well, one of them.
Um,
I have
one
I
of
have
them.
more stories, I'm
I
sure.
was gonna say there will be others. I have no doubt. There's too many mysteries out there.
Too many mysteries. Yeah. I mean, God, we're gonna have to do a whole episode just on oh, what's his name? I just forgot his name. Great Balls of Fire. Jerry Lee Lewis.
Oh yeah.
Talk about some craziness there.
For
Yeah,
sure.
that's a whole thing. So, all right. Well, one more down.
Woohoo!
Thanks for listening, everybody.
All right. See you guys.
See you later. Bye. Thank you, Monica, our guest hosts, and listeners for getting into the petty details with me today. Stay petty, my friends.